I do want to just go over a couple of these questions, but especially hit the zero product property. That's what we did yesterday. I just want to make sure everybody understands. Zero product property is simply when you have two items that you're multiplying together and you split them and you set each of those items equal to zero. So what it does is takes a complicated looking equation and it becomes two simple equations. Like on number 20, you would just take this b and you would say b, that could equal 0. But then again, this b plus 12 could also equal 0. So what happened was we took one equation and we created two equations, right? How do we do that? We took something times something equals 0. So you got this first something, set it equal to 0. You got the second something, set it equal to 0. And now you're able to solve both. Now the left one is already solved for you, b equals 0. That's your answer. And the other one, you just simply subtract 12, and b equals negative 12. So those are your two answers for that question. So as we could see, when they are in factored form, what does factored form mean? When they're ready to split, right? Like you have something times something, that's factored form, right? You don't have to factor out a GCF, it's already done for you. So when it's already in factored form, it's simple. You just split them, set them each equal to 0, create two simple equations and solve. So number 20, that was easy. Number 21 is also easy because it's in factored form. Number 22 is also easy because it's in factored form. But then we get to these down here, which are not in factored form. So 23, it does not say something times something equals 0. Like up here on 19, it does say something times something equals 0. Number 23, it does not have that. So what we need to do is factor to be able to get that something times something. So what's the GCF on 23? X. So take that x and pull it out. Now if you do pull out an x, what's going to be left over on the inside? In other words, x times what is x squared? X. And how about the other term inside of the parentheses? X times what is negative 5x? Negative 5. And ladies and gentlemen, now we have something that's factored. We have an x times x minus 5, and we need to write equals 0 as well. So now that it's factored, now that we have x times x minus 5 equals 0, now we're able to split them, set them each equal to 0, and then you solve. Now the one on the left is already solved. The one on the right, all it takes is one step. And there's your answer. Okay? So we need to recognize that on some problems we're going to have to factor. We're going to have a little quiz tomorrow. It's not long. It's pretty short.
No.
I think it's going to be like a half sheet of paper, not a full sheet. But on that quiz, we're going to have factoring out the GCF. Maybe 2 questions on that. We're going to have factoring by grouping, maybe 2 questions on that. And we're going to have factoring, or not factoring, but solving equations with the zero product property. And I'm going to select from the homework. So you don't know, I might give it to you really easy, like 21, where it's already ready to just take these guys and split them and solve. That's really easy. But I might give you one on the quiz where you actually have to do some work and then factor to be able to split and solve. So like 25, it's not even equal to 0. You have a's on both sides. You don't want a's on both sides. Let's get rid of one of the a's. I'm going to subtract 6a, cancels. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. Subtract 6a. You're going to rewrite it. 3a squared minus 6a. Why did I rewrite it? Because I can't subtract an a from an a squared. Those are different terms. But I do have at least on the right side a 0. Now, after getting it set equal to 0, now I could factor and then split it and then solve. So let's pull out a GCF. The GCF right there is 3 and an a. If I do pull out a 3 and an a, what would I have left on the inside? In other words, 3a times what gives me a 3a squared? Just a, right? And then how about 3a times what gives me a minus 6a? A minus 2, right? A negative 2. There we factored. So now we truly do have something times something equals 0. So now I could actually apply the zero product property and split them. So I have this 3a that I'm going to set equal to 0. 3a equals 0. I have this a minus 2 that I'm going to set equal to 0. So I have a minus 2 equals 0. And I'm going to solve both of them. The one on the left side, I divide by 3, divide by 3. A equals 0. That's one answer. The other one, you add 2, add 2. A equals 2. That's another answer. So we're going to have two of these guys. Please make sure that you know, this whole worksheet, make sure you know how to do this whole worksheet. But right now I just wanted to give more examples or more explanations on how we apply the zero product property when we're solving. And of course, sometimes it's easy, like right here. All you do is split them and solve. But sometimes you have to move things around and then factor and then split them and solve. So right here we'd have to subtract 3x, rewrite it, 2x squared minus 3x equals 0, and then you factor, and then you split it and solve. So factoring right here, the GCF would be what? X. What would be left on the inside? In other words, x times what gives me a 2x squared? 2x. And then how about x times what gives me a minus 3x? Minus 3, thank you. And then you split it and then you solve, okay? Might as well go through with it. We split it, x is going to equal 0. This is going to equal 0. And you solve both. This one's already solved for you. Over here, plus 3, plus 3. We're going to rewrite our equation. It's going to say 2x equals 3. Final step, to get rid of that 2 times in front of the x, you're going to have to do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. And that's your answer. X equals 3 divided by 2. So those are your two answers for that one. Okay. Are there any questions on the first part of this, on any one of these? So questions 1 through 12 was factoring out the GCF. 1 through 12 was factoring the GCF. You got to see what's in common in every single one and pull out the maximum item that that's in common in all of them. And then questions 13 through 18, that was grouping. And of course, the rest of the worksheet was using the zero product property. So those are the three things we're going to be quizzing on tomorrow.